Today's Patreon dedication is for Jason Belk. Thank you, Jason. Anikthea versus Leori, Zhulodok, and partners Ardenn and Sengir. 2 mana into Herald and Black Market Connection should be alright, so we'll try this. Alright, and we draw into the 3rd land we need to go for the Black Market Connections, assuming that the ramp from the Herald doesn't count. Wouldn't have thought anyone would destroy that, but you never know. First spell of the game is from the partner player, and it's a good one, Bloodchief Ascension. Might be a cool one to put in this deck actually, getting a couple of creature versions of that. Would be very, very slow, but we can enable it by one of these swinging in as a creature. Alright, and looks like Zhulodok accidentally passed through the turn there, unfortunately, so yeah, unfortunately might see a scoop here. And now the Jeskai player holding up blue mana. We managed to get into a flooded strand, so let's just go for the Herald of the Pantheon as we suggested during the beginning of the game. That will gain us a life on casting an enchantment and make them cost 1 less. Okay, so Zhulodok now 1 turn behind, but deciding to play it out anyway, gets down a shrine admirably. And the first commander is the Elemental Cat. Alright, and seeing an Ephemerate for us so that we can flicker our commander, help protect it, also gives us the ETB as well. Why don't we go for a 2 mana Black Market Connection so that we can start ramping here, and we can use that for card draw as well if we like. If we gain enough consistent life from the Herald, it will make up for the treasure life that we take to the Black Market Connections, and that will give us a chance to get down a tap land with the Flooded Strand. Not going to swing in because I don't want to put a counter on the Bloodchief Ascension, and it's a Suspicious Bookcase from the colourless player. Now a Whirlwind of Thought, one of the best Jeskai cards you can play in Commander, and immediately drawing a card to it with the Mox Amber. So 6 cards in hand, about to maybe attack him with... they could hold back with the Commander for the sake of the enchantment over here. They don't have a Planeswalker to trigger with that. Yep, decided to swing in, so it goes in against us, 3 commander damage. So that puts the first counter on this thing. It only needs 3 in order to have us start taking life to every card that hits the bin. Alright, Utopia Sprawl is a nice draw. Let's go for the trigger here. We'll draw a card and lose a life. Or draw a card and make a treasure, so that loses us 3 life in total. Alright, and that gets us into Font of Fertility, so... if we go Utopia Sprawl, that'll be 2, 3, 4, which is enough to go for Doomweight Giant, and then maybe play Font of Fertility as well. Although we'd like to mount up the procs from the Doomweight Giant so that we can get rid of this thing at least. Either way, we'll go for a Swamp. So we'll go for Utopia Sprawl first for the sake of maximising mana. And that can tap for black. Then it's a 4 mana Doomweight Giant. So we go back up to 35 thanks to the Herald of the Pantheon. And that enters, triggers itself, -1/-1 on everything. Yeah, I think we'll hold on to the Font of Fertility. Might be that we can go for our commander, the font, and the Ephemerate. All depends on what our opponents do during the next phase though, because Doomweight Giant may well go down, so we can reanimate that to the Anikthea. Anyway, we lost life to the Black Market Connections there, 3 life, so the Bloodchief Ascension is only 1 token away, or 1 counter away from proccing. Managing to fix the colours over there, and going for Decanter of Endless Water, so deciding to ramp here. Did make some white mana there, so maybe we were going to see the Ardenn. A Mirage Mirror for Zhulodok. Noteworthy that they could make this a copy of the Black Market Connections. This triggers during the pre-combat main phase as opposed to the upkeep, so they could make use of that if they want to. Now, do we see a Planeswalker from the Jeskai player? Going through to combat first, and deciding to go into the left this time. And they get to choose a Planeswalker type here, so again, we're going to see if they manage to Windmill Slam a Planeswalker and then copy its abilities. Alright, and we'll assume that they chose Chandra, so that can deal 2 damage to a target player and add 2. 3 damage to a creature or Planeswalker, and then the -7 we'll ignore. Cantrips to the Whirlwind of Thought, so they'll have to be careful where they send that 2 damage, unless they don't care about the Bloodchief Ascension. Sending it over to the Zhulodok player means that they'll get another copy, and this thing is going to be online by the time we roll around. So spreading the damage across our other 2 opponents, making 4 mana in total. Might get another Chandra down. It could be Chandra Tribal that our opponent's built, because there's plenty of Planeswalkers under that character. Instead using the mana on a Chromatic Lantern, cantrips again, and then just leaving it there. So the Bloodchief Ascension now has its final counter, like we said, so now whenever any card from anywhere goes into the graveyard, it will drain us for 2, and that mounts up way faster than you think it will. Just going to have to play into it, I think. Alright, so we get to draw first at least before we make a decision on the Black Market connection. There is a Satyr Enchanter. Do we take 3 again? Yeah, I think we're fine to do that. So we don't really have anything decent to grab out of the bin with our commander anyway. I think we're just still setting up. Alright, so we managed to make a land this turn thanks to that card draw, Field of the Dead. Drop that into play, that should put the Fear of God in everyone. Then we can go Satyr Enchanter and the Font of Fertility as well. And that'll be something to grab back with our commander if we want to. Gain a life with this as well, thanks to the Herald of the Pantheon, as well as draw a card to the Enchanter, of course. Alright, that is a Seal of Doom, so probably get that down this turn as well, so that we can threaten to get rid of this thing. Doomweight Giant not doing too much for us so far. So managing to hold on to a treasure, because the Seal of Doom only costs us 1, and there is a Lightning Greaves ready for our commander. Have to be careful of that with the Ephemerate though, because Shroud means that we can't target with this thing. Could go for the Ephemerate now, onto the Doomweight Giant. This is on cast though, not entry. So all we do is get rid of the Leori. Could encourage them to block to protect the Chandra. Yeah, let's go through to combat here. It at least does that. Debuffing our opponent's army means that we can better attack in. So they either lose their commander or they lose the Chandra here. Deciding to lose their commander, so just taking 2 to the Chandra. And then the commander does hit the bin before going back into the command zone, so there's the first 2 life drain. We'll be seeing that ourselves if we decide to use the Seal of Doom. Ugh, a smokestack, don't like that. So a suck counter on this at the beginning of each player's upkeep. That player sacrifices a permanent for each suck counter on this. So we might have to keep making treasures just for the sake of the smokestack. Could use it as a sack outlet to encourage our Anikthea, but yeah, the Staxy stuff I'm not liking over there. Tricky thing is, it's difficult to know who to focus on first, really. Can't let Planeswalkers go off, but can't allow the smokestack to go off either. A Thran Dynamo for Zhulodok now. Just slowly ramping over there, and will no doubt start going big and smashy in a minute. Chandra dealing 2 damage over to the Orzhov player, making 2 mana there as well. And into, yeah, looking like it's Chandra Tribal, drawing a card to the enchantment, of course. So as much as I want to be dealing a lot of damage to this player while he's going quite slow, I have to be trying to deal with these Planeswalkers. It's doing quite well on mana over there. Making another mana by ticking up with the Dress to Kill Chandra. I'm just hoping that it's not board wipe tribal as well, with it being a Super Friends deck. We see the Pyro Genius now, which can be 2 damage to each opponent, and they do decide on ticking up with that. So the limit on that is -10. It's on 7 loyalty at the moment, -7 again, and another -7. Goldforged Thopteryx, Flying Lifelink, a 1/3. Each legendary permanent you control has Ward 2. Excellent. Alright, so not much point in popping off our Seal of Doom here. We'll just leave it alone, I think. Smokestack gonna start becoming relevant on our opponent's turn here, but doesn't do anything to us quite yet. There's a Polluted Delta, so if we go... How many lands? Is it 7 with this? Yeah. So we can get 1 with this, and then proc it twice with the Polluted Delta. This on the stack will just continue to take 3 life, I think. Alright, a Serra's Sanctum is another option for us. So do we go for our commander? We can sacrifice this. We'll take 2 life to the Bloodchief Ascension, because that goes in the bin. And that allows us into a Plains, so that we can go for Serra's Sanctum. We'll add 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, as opposed to getting an additional zombie, I think is fine. So play the Serra's Sanctum, triggers Field of the Dead for a zombie, and let's go for our commander and try and continue with the ramp plan. Our commander costs 1 less thanks to the Herald of the Pantheon. We gain a life and draw a card to the enchanter because our commander is an enchantment creature. Alright, that gets us into Sundering Growth, so we can make a copy of the Font of Fertility if we want to. And we can blow this thing up. It's probably going to be a good idea. In our deck at least, because we want to be having things hit the bin quite often. Doomweight Giant triggers -1/-1 on everything. And Anikthea reanimates the font, so that will trigger the Doomweight Giant again when it enters. And be another -1/-1, so looks like the Giant is going to start doing things here. Our commander giving things menace is going to be relevant against those walkers as well. Okay, so let's see about Sundering Growth. Onto the Bloodchief Ascension. We'll get drained one last time, but still worth doing, I think. Oh, I thought this would hit the bin before it resolves. It stays on the stack and then we populate. That is blown up first. Populate after that and then it hits the bin apparently, so not getting drained twice. Doomweight Giant triggering again to the populate, so that will get this thing out of the way. And then how many of these walkers can we deal with? If we go for the Lightning Greaves, it means that we can't hold it up on the Anikthea, but it's worth having the haste. So throw that onto the commander. There's nothing to reanimate with our commander anyway. Alright, and the Zhulodok player decided to scoop. I'm not sure what made him scoop there, to be honest. It's a shame to see the Zhulodok player go down. So we go in at a 4-mana Chandra definitely, so we'll do that with the Doomweight Giant. And then this is -3, so if we only deal 4 damage to that, then it can still take a decent creature out, so we have to knock that down by 4 and 6, and then we'll knock this down to 3, so that if they want to -3 on it, then they'll kill it. So yeah, 2 there, 4 there, taking it out, and then 6, taking that one down to 1 loyalty. Anikthea triggering on attack. We can't make use of it, unfortunately, which does feel like a huge waste, but we're doing quite well here, I think, against the onslaught of Planeswalkers. So this goes down to 3. Like we said, if it wants to lightning bolt a creature, then it can do, but it'll die. And this is reasonably useless at 1 loyalty. Yeah, I think there's not much point holding up Ephemerate for our commander. We'll leave the Lightning Greaves on there. Alright, so Smokestack going to have a counter put on it, and our opponent stacked it correctly, so doesn't have to sacrifice here. He will next turn, and he doesn't have too many permanents in play, so not sure how that's going to pan out for him. There's a Lotho that will get some treasures into play, and then a Skrelv's Hive will give him sack fodder in the form of mites as well. So losing a life and making a treasure token. Now once again need to hope that we dodge a board wipe from the Jeskai player. Has to sacrifice a permanent first to the Smokestack, getting rid of the Chromatic Lantern as opposed to the Mox Amber. And there's a Chandra's Regulator from our opponent, so they'll be able to double up triggers again. And following that up with a Sol Ring makes another treasure token over here, and of course it is a cantrip. Whirlwind of Thought doing some work this game. If it wasn't for the Bloodchief Ascension, I definitely would have blown that up. Now activating the Bold Pyromancer, 2 damage onto us, and can copy that. And paying into that will target us, taking us down to 24. Then it's the same again, 2 damage to each opponent this time. And copying it with the artifact. So we're down to 20 and starting to like the look of life gain here. And then it's a Silent Arbiter, so we're seeing all the Staxy type stuff here. Followed by Arena Rector, so yeah, looks like we're going to have to maybe waste a Cacophony Unleashed. But it does mean that the Planeswalker comes down ready for us to swing in at it. So yeah, probably worth doing. Our opponent's down to 3 cards in hand at least. So we should be fine to sacrifice a Font of Fertility here. Obviously takes us down a 3/3 menace, but like I said, we should have enough creatures swinging in to be able to go in at these walkers here. So that triggers the Field of the Dead. We'll have a 2/2 zombie to swing in with, because we're doing this during the end step. Maybe just go Seal of Doom here onto the Silent Arbiter now I'm thinking about it. That gets us around this with Menace, and it gives us something to reanimate on the Seal of Doom when our commander swings in. Alright, and then it's Anguished Unmaking. That is going to exile this thing, so we're teaming up against the walkers, which is good. while the Orzhov player is struggling to get creatures in. So that saves us from having to cast our board wipe here. Smokestack, during the upkeep, just has us sacrifice a zombie token, I imagine. We're going to get a couple more of those to the Polluted Delta. Right, there's a Sunpetal Grove. So let's continue to draw cards with this, I think. We go to get into a True Conviction or something like that. Well, there you go. All we have to do is ask, apparently. So Polluted Delta triggers Field of the Dead. And then Serra's Sanctum gets us 5 mana. So, yeah, just play the True Conviction here. Now we need to work out if we can just one-shot somebody. Draw a card to the Satyr, gain life from the Herald. Alright, and that is into Eidolon of Blossoms, which will continue to draw us cards here. I think it's time to start being more serious about holding up the Rootborn defences. -1/-1 from the Doomwake Giant gets rid of the other creature over here in Lotho. So that's going to make the Smokestack more difficult. They'll be able to put a Might out first though. Right, so we can go Lightning Greaves over to... is it worth it? So that's 10, 18, 22, 26, 34, 38. So we can just swing straight in at this player, hopefully. So we will go Lightning Greaves onto the zombie token, is what I was debating. And should be able to defend with a Rootborn Defences against a Pongify or something like that. So double strike and lifelink on everything, as well as menace. Means that we should be able to just straight up take this opponent out. Once again, seeing how good Seal of Doom is in the Anikthea deck like we did last time. Only getting one copy of it though, triggering the Doomwake Giant, which has kept the board clear of creatures, or helped to at least. And our opponent being a really good sport about it in the chat, so big thank you Tim for sticking it out. I'm glad it was... I don't mind a Super Friends deck, I just don't like it when it's board wipe tribal, because it tends to not let anyone else play. This seemed like a fun variant of Super Friends from our opponent. So we jump up to 56, and obviously take that player out, which means we can start putting even more life into the black market connections. Yeah, I think we're just protecting our commander and passing the turn at that. Nothing to stop us going for the Eidolon of Blossoms next turn. Just need to play around a board wipe because we've got our opponent on board as it stands now. But he's going to have to sack some permanents first, so should put Smokestack on the stack first. Although it is a May ability on this, so he doesn't even have to put a counter on it if he doesn't want to. So Skrelv's Hive making a Might first. Then Smokestack sacrificing itself, which we're not all that disappointed with. They can't block with the Might token anyway, so we're still getting through to them as it stands now. Alright, and our opponent deciding to scoop it up on us, so yeah, the True Conviction really speeding that game up towards the end there. We wished for it and out it came, and you can see why we wanted it now. The double strike with all these creatures out, as well as the lifelink pulling us out of a little bit of a pit, really helped save us there. So hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit to Anikthea. I haven't had too many crazily interactive games with her. The artwork's incredible as well. If you want to see more, then be sure to let me know with thumbs up and comments and all the rest of it. Please consider donating on Patreon as well, because there's very, very few of you who do that, and it only takes $1 a month. If 10% of the viewers gave $1 a month, then, well, I'd be churning out content like crazy and you actually couldn't watch it all, there'd be that much of it. Anyway, big thank you to the patrons and the rest of you for showing up today. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.